until we're starting to try and identify which party looks the most like Jesus, which ideology lines up the most with Jesus. And I'm here to bust your bubble. None of them. None of them. Because the kingdoms of this world exist at the end of a sword. And Jesus doesn't deal with a sword in his hand. Jesus deals with a sword coming out of his mouth. Because he speaks order into chaos and life into death. And he never wins by swinging a sword. And he never retaliates. And he endures an evil person. And he loves his enemy. And he prays for his persecutor. And he doesn't line up ideologically because he doesn't belong to this kingdom. Pilate asked him the most important question he was ever asked in his life on the earth. It took the unregenerate governor of the Roman section of Palestine to ask the most important question would ever be asked of Jesus. Are you a king? And where's your kingdom? And Jesus said, if my kingdom were of this earth, what? We should know that, by the way. I'm not condemning, but we got all the righteousness verses down. We need that one. He said, if my kingdom were of this earth, my soldiers would fight. But my kingdom is not of this earth. Therefore, they don't. Why does the church not have that etched on their heart? Why is it easier for us to memorize verses of identity and righteousness and glory and goodness? I'll tell you why. Because they're private. Because they belong to us. And that's okay. But the gospel of the kingdom is not private. It's public. It's world-changing. It's building a city. And what we ought to know as followers of Jesus is we don't exist at the handle end of a sword. We don't exist at all as the kingdoms of this earth. The gospel of Jesus Christ is antithetical to anything the world has to offer. It is the opposite response mechanism of what's been inbred in our hearts through our culture and our past. It is the death of who we used to be, so for the resurrection of who he is, so that we don't react to this world, but we respond as if we are a part of a kingdom, and we have a king that matters. What might it cost us? Matthew chapter 10. If I'm going to give you New Testament on what's free, let me give you New Testament on what it might cost. Matthew chapter 10. It would help if I had Matthew chapter 10 in my Bible. It would also help if I told you Matthew chapter 5. We'll go to 10 in a moment. Matthew chapter 5 verse 38. What might it cost me to follow Jesus? You've heard it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I tell you, don't resist an evil person. Let me read that to you again. I tell you, don't resist an evil person. You ever seen a kingdom of this earth that believes that verse? Do you know a political party that believes that verse? Do you know a national agenda that believes that verse? Welcome to the kingdom. You do not resist an evil person. You have a king. He lives in your heart. You belong in his presence. You are his child. But you have not privatized your faith. You are righteous. You have identity. But you have a responsibility on the earth to face the evil. How do we face it? Not at the end of a sword that comes out of our hand, but as a response of a man named Jesus. I've had people who bounce back against that and say, yes, but you forget, Pastor, that Jesus is a lion. Book of Revelation, Jesus is the Lion of the tribe of Judah and conquers his enemies. That's Revelation chapter 5. Let me describe to you what happens there. You don't have to turn there, you can read it at home. John cries because there's no one to open the seal in Revelation 5. And the elders in heaven say, don't cry, don't worry about it. You know, there's one capable and worthy of opening the seal. It is the Lion of the tribe of Judah and the root of David. And John turns to take a look at the Lion of the tribe of Judah. And the Bible says, and I saw a lamb as if it were slain. Did you know that there's not a scene in the Bible where Jesus looks like a lion? When he's introduced as the lion, do you know what he looks like? A slain lamb. Why? Because he conquers not from the position of roaring in violence and predatory action. He conquers as a slaughtered lamb who took the evil of the world into himself.